Hello everyone, it's Lisa here with you on the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. Today we're going to be creating a simple Christmas card using the present time layering dies and an ink blended background, and I'm going to start off by blending my background. And today I'm using Distress Oxides, and I'm using some Nina Solar White Classic Crest £80 cardstock, and I have re-inked all of my Oxide inks that I'm going to use today. I really think this makes a big difference when you're blending onto any cardstock. It definitely does go a lot smoother and they do blend a lot easier, so I will speed up the process a little bit, but I'm going to go in now with my second colour, and this is Abandoned Coral. These two colours blend really well together. You don't actually need to be super particular about your blending for this card because a lot of the background is going to be hidden by the layering dies, but I do try to make sure I get a really smooth transition where I can. And I'm just cleaning off my work surface. I do this in between each of the colours just to make sure I don't transfer any of that red onto the bottom of the panel where I'm now going to add the greens. So going in first with Mowed Lawn, that's the darkest of my two greens, and I will go in with Twisted Citron just after that. And these two greens blend really well together as well. So when I was thinking about this card, I wanted to go for fairly traditional colours, hence the red and the green. But if I was to blend those colours together in the middle, I would end up with a horrible brown and it would look like a muddy mess. So what I'm going to do is just add another colour in the centre, and I'm using Mustard Seed here. This blends really well with Twisted Citron, but as you can see there, it doesn't blend so well with the Abandoned Coral, but it will. It just needs a little bit of extra blending. So I'm just going to re-blend the Abandoned Coral into that Mustard Seed, and you can see here that really softens that edge. And as I mentioned earlier, the blending isn't super important. So once I finish this, I'm going to set it to one side and work on the next part of the card. I'm going to start off with the second die. So this will be the bottom layer of the two dies, and I'm going to use some gold glitter cardstock for that layer. So I'm also using Stick It adhesive sheet, so I'm just positioning that down onto the sheet there, and then I'm going to cut off the excess. The adhesive sheet will enable me to stick that gold glitter panel down onto my blended panel really easily. So just trimming off the excess there, and I will now take a stencil pal and just make sure that that adhesive sheet is stuck really firmly onto the back of the gold glitter cardstock. We're going to go ahead and die cut our lower panel now. So just going to position the die over the glitter cardstock and secure it with some low tack tape so that it doesn't shift when I run it through my Gemini Junior. And this die cuts really easily. I did run the die through my Gemini a couple of times just to make sure that they were all going to pop out easily, but they did, and I just used a craft pick just to pop out those smaller sections. Now we're going to repeat the process for the top layer. So I'm just using white for my top layer. This is an £80 panel of Nina Solar White cardstock. Just making sure that I've got all the bits covered there with the adhesive sheet, and I'm going to trim off the excess as I did before, and then I'm going to make sure that that's really adhered firmly to the back by using the stencil pal. And now I'm going to take layer 1 of the 2 dies, that's the top layer, flip it over, just add some low tack tape and run it through the Gemini, exactly as I did for the first panel. And it does take a while to pop all these pieces out, so I've left that footage out. There's a lot more on this top layer and some of them are quite small, but they did pop out really easily. And here's a look at both of the panels now that they've been die cut. I absolutely love all the sparkle that you get from that bottom layer of glitter cardstock. So now we're going to work on assembling the card. And we're going to start by removing the backing paper from the adhesive sheet. The sticky adhesive is really sticky. You can see I keep getting it stuck to my fingers, but I do finally remove it all, and I'm just going to place that down over the blended panel. So the way that I found easiest to do this was just by lining up the top left and bottom left corners first, and then just pressing it down into place. I had a little bit of excess card at the side there, which I'm just going to trim off with some scissors. And now I'm going to take a piece of white paper, just place that down over the top and go over it with my stencil pal, just to make sure that it's really well stuck down. So now we're going to do our top panel. So I'm just removing the backing paper from the adhesive sheet once more. This was definitely a slower process for this top panel. The die is actually a lot more intricate, so the pieces did keep sort of breaking off, but I did remove it all in the end off camera. And I'm now going to place that down on top of the other layer. If I was to remake this card, I would do this top layer with wet adhesive. I did find that although the stick it adhesive is really strong, there were some areas where it didn't stick very well to the glitter cardstock. I mean, that's because it's glitter cardstock and it can be difficult to adhere to. So I did end up adding some little bits of glue on in some of the areas. So now we're going to work on our sentiment. This is the Christmas Miracle stamp set and it has the perfect greeting in there. It says, "The gift of friendship is my favourite Christmas present." So of course I had to use that one. I'm just starting by lining up the stamp in my MISTI and prepping my cardstock with an anti-static powder bag. I brush off the excess, add the Versamark ink and stamp it down. And I'm now going to add on 3 layers of white detail embossing powder. I usually do 2, sometimes 3, just to make sure that I've got good coverage. And I take a dry brush. I've got a really small dry brush here that I use to flick off any bits of the embossing powder that have gone astray. And I've gone ahead and trimmed that sentiment down off camera. I've put some foam tape onto the back just to pop it up a little bit, removed the backing from that, and I'm going to press that down onto the center of my card. And to finish off my card and to add some extra bits of sparkle, I'm going to adhere some Enchanted Forest gems just around the top left and the bottom right of that sentiment. And that brings me to the end of today's card. This is a super fun die to work with, really easy as it's only 2 layers, and of course it would work well all year round for any card that you might want to create where you're giving a gift to someone. So thank you very much for joining me today. I will be back soon with another video for you. In the meantime, I hope you have a lovely day.